Thanks, everybody. I call this meeting to order. Welcome to the meeting number 31 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on the Status of Women. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted on Tuesday, February 1st, the committee will resume its study of the mental health of young women and girls. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format, pursuant to the House Order on June 23rd, 2022. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. I would like to make a few comments for the benefits of the witnesses and members. Please wait until I recognize you before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. Interpretation for those on Zoom, you have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. And for those in the room, this is your little earpiece, and you'll have the option of French, English, or on the floor on your piece there as well. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. For members on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best as we can, and we appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. I'm just going to remind everybody, of course, this is a very difficult study, and I know that we have some incredible witnesses here as well. So I'm just going to remind you this is difficult, and we'll be discussing experiences related to mental health. This may be triggering for viewers, members, or staff with similar experiences. If you feel distressed or if you need help, please advise the clerk, or please just come to me through committee or anything you wish. I would like now to welcome our witnesses, and it's wonderful to have such an incredible group here today. On the screen, we have Carol Todd, the founder and mother of Amanda Todd Legacy Society. As an individual, Dr. Shemaine C. Williams, professor and interim dean, factor in Wintosh Faculty of Social Work, University of Toronto. We have Emmanuel Akindele, Blue Guardian, co-founder and chief executive officer in the room. And from Future Black Female, we have in the room, oh gosh, I practiced this and I'm not going to get it right. Timalena Alujan, you help me here. You get on here and share it with me. Can you say your name properly? Because it needs to be said properly.
My name is Timalena Olagunju.
Timalena Olagunju. Yes. Thank you so much. I knew I'd get it right after. And we also have Dr. Tepo Shamganda, founding and executive director. Thank you so much for being here. We are waiting for another. She's online, fantastic. From the Kanichik Incorporated, and please, everybody, please help me with this. I'm doing my best, but not great all the time. Sydney Lavassière Pouhac, co-chair and board of directors. And from Réseau Québécois d'Action pour la Santé des Femmes, we have Lydia Assayeg, who is the director. For the opening, what we will be providing is 5 minutes of opening comments from each group. You'll be getting 5 minutes. When you see me start twirling my fingers and all of those, and for you on screen, you'll start seeing these hands up here. Just try to wind it down. That'll give you about 15 to 20 seconds to wind it down, if you don't mind. I'm now going to turn the floor online to to Carol Todd, the founder and mother of the Amanda Todd Legacy Society. You have 5 minutes for your opening statements.
Unmute. Can everyone hear me?
In the room, I can hear you. Maybe we have to raise the volume if everybody wants to put their pieces in as well. If you want to start again, go for it.
Okay. I will start. Dear committee members and all witnesses, thank you for this invitation to speak.
Ms. Todd, if you want to hold for one moment, you're absolutely right. I'm looking at the voice, and we do not have, it's not very loud. Can we
do I have to do anything?
The volume where? We've asked to raise the volume in the room, so just as soon as we have that, I'm going to pass it to you, okay? I know we don't want to miss anything, so. Ms. Todd, can you just speak a little bit so we can make sure that we can hear you properly?
I hope everyone can hear me. Maybe it's because I'm so far away.
Hold for one moment. We have a problem in the room. What I'm going to do, Ms. Todd, if you don't mind, I'm going to switch to the next panelist so that, or should I do it in the room? I'm going to switch to the next panelist here in the room, actually, if you don't mind, just so that we can make sure that we get everything run on. Was that, we heard her there? Actually, I'm going to throw everything to the dogs that I just said there. Throw everything to the wind. Ms. Todd, you can start your 5 minutes. We've got all the volume figured out, so if you could begin with your 5 minutes, go for it.
Can everyone hear me now? Okay. Dear standing committee members, Thank you for this invitation to speak in front of your committee and provide thoughts contributing to the focus of mental health issues experienced by young women and girls with attention to online harms and how these can greatly impact the self-esteem of this population. My name is Carol Todd. I'm the founder of the Amanda Todd Legacy Society. I am also an educator in British Columbia, but I am known more widely as the mother of Amanda Todd. Amanda was a victim of negative online behaviors focused on her and affected her overall mental health and well-being. Her story has become prominent worldwide in the battle against cyberbullying, sextortion, and online exploitation. The world of technology has continued to evolve at lightning speed over the past 30 years. Back then, one of the main uses of technology was just for email communication. Technology devices and the internet have created vast and varied behaviors online. There is, of course, the good, and then there is the darker side, where things are seen and heard that affect how we may feel about ourselves and or others. In this 21st century, the internet has allowed us to share stories, images, videos, plus more, in often an unglamorous and targeted way. My daughter was a victim of this technology uprising. Amanda was born on November 27th, 1996. She was just 15 years old when she took her life by suicide on October the 10th, 2012. In a week, it will have been 10 years since her death. As her mother, I will always carry the heartache of losing my daughter in this world, where online harm and behaviors are preventable. Amanda experienced cyber abusive behaviors from her peers, online shaming, victimization, and cyber attacking. Amanda experienced being part of the perfect world syndrome on the internet. Amanda was exploited online via an international predator who was extradited to Canada and has since been convicted in a BC Supreme Court on August 6th of 2022 on charges of criminal harassment, luring, extortion, and 2 counts of child pornography. Sentencing of this predator, Mr. Aidan Coban, is to occur the week of October 11th, 2022, which is actually the day after the 10th anniversary of Amanda's death. Amanda's life from ages 12 to 15 encompassed cyberbullying, online exploitation, now known as sextortion, and mental illness. Young persons feel their lifeline is attached to today's world of technology. Much like oxygen, without it, they don't believe that they can exist. When Amanda was a young teen, our knowledge of what existed on the internet was not as widespread as it is now. Amanda and her friends ended up sharing personal information with strangers and learned firsthand about the dark side of the internet, where it is a predator's playground and how strangers can prey on kids in chat rooms and social media sites. This left Amanda shocked and feeling bad about her situation, instilling fear in her and our family. Her peers taunted and ridiculed her face to face and online to the point where Amanda was afraid to leave the house. Amanda then turned to the internet to find strength, but was met with more abusive harm. When Amanda was offline, the abusive words towards my daughter continued to swirl around social media. Not knowing what was being said and by whom added to the problems of not being able to provide support to help deal with situations. These were also young people who Amanda at times considered friends. My once spirited and adventurous child became more reclusive, sad, and felt alone, saying to me that she didn't know who to trust anymore. In today's world, young girls and women, and also young boys and men, are dealing with a lot more than we did 30 years ago in terms of sexualized behaviors and easy access to sharing personal and intimate information over the internet. This oversharing has created situations in which we are discussing today. We have come to realize that what has happened to Amanda can happen to anyone. As Amanda said in her words, everyone has a story. When those stories come out and they belong to your child, your relatives, your grandchildren, it sometimes means more. No one is immune to becoming a statistic. In conclusion, I want to thank you for the time and effort you have put into creating a space to address the harms that young women and girls face in their lives. Speaking for many Canadians who care about our country, we applaud and thank the Canadian government for putting the emotional wellness of young girls and women in the forefront of conversation. It is hoped that more resources and strategies can be put in place to address the situations we are being faced with. Communities worldwide need to continue to work together in supporting the work that has been done to promote increased awareness and education surrounding mental wellness and online safety. I am grateful to be able to use my voice to share Amanda's story and this life experience to assist with any changes that may be brought forth. The voices of so many continue to remain silent, either out of fear or because they can no longer speak to be heard. So it is through myself and the legacy that Amanda has left behind that we continue to make these silent voices be heard. We must work together to create a safer space for our Canadians to live in. Thank you for the time and listening to me.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Todd, and thank you so much for being here with us today. I know that this will be very impactful for the rest of our work that we need to do. I'm now going to pass it over to Dr. Charmaine Williams, who is here as an individual. Charmaine, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm hoping you're hearing me.
You perfectly.
Yeah? Okay. Great. Thank you for the invitation to present to this committee. I'm speaking from my experience as a social worker in the mental health care system and as a researcher in mental health with an emphasis on issues that affect women of color and LGBT plus communities. I anticipate that other witnesses will speak in detail about the health gaps between men and women. My addition is to suggest that when you consider these health gaps, we also consider the more extreme gaps that are experienced by people who are not occupying either of these categories. Trans and gender diverse people face severe mental health disparities and significant barriers to accessing effective mental health care, and their issues are easily overlooked or marginalized in work that focuses on women and girls or on people identifying across the LGBT spectrum. The issue of who gets overlooked, marginalized, or silenced when systems attempt to meet the needs of populations is key to this discussion. Strategies for mental health promotion and the prevention of mental illness that are directed at young women and girls as homogenous groups are inadequate for understanding and addressing health disparities. Although there's value in attempting to address the shared concerns, it inevitably mutes or erases important differences that have implications for mental health and well-being. In Canada, we have been leaders in identifying social determinants as critical factors that influence the health of populations. We know that women and girls are disadvantaged, or better stated, disempowered, in categories like income, employment, education, and access to health care services. However, we also know that Black women, Indigenous women, and lesbian, bisexual, and trans women are further disadvantaged and disempowered. Consequently, action on the social determinants is critical, but action must be equitable. The strategies that this government undertakes to address the mental health of women and girls must include strategies that are directed to address the specific disparities and health risks for Black women and girls, Indigenous women and girls, lesbian and bisexual women and girls, and gender diverse young people. Further, action on access to timely, effective, woman-centered, culturally appropriate health care is crucial to effective treatment and recovery from mental illness for BIPOC women and girls. In addition, these strategies must emphasize that the health disparities faced by these groups are tied to exposures to interpersonal and institutional sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and racism, exposures that are often augmented by intersecting identities that expose people to their combined effects. My own research has shown that women and trans people who are also racial minorities, lesbian or bisexual, or lower income face augmented risk for depression and unmet needs for mental health care. Exposure to discrimination is one of the major factors that links them to these poor outcomes. I have further observed over several research studies that exposure to violence is a determinant of mental health for women. Women and girls that are Black, Indigenous, LGBT+, or combinations of these identities report lifetime exposures to violence that begins with childhood physical, racial, and sexual traumas that continue into adulthood, in which violence occurs in unsafe housing conditions, unsafe working conditions, unsafe migration conditions, and within relationships that cannot be escaped for safety. All women and girls experience risk to their mental health in social and institutional conditions that do not protect them from violence. We label some of these women and girls as at risk when we should more accurately identify their environments as risky and unsafe. A comprehensive strategy to promote the mental health and safety of young women and girls requires multi-sector collaboration. This is especially necessary to address issues in BIPOC and LGBT plus communities. I will close by emphasizing the importance of developing initiatives in collaboration with community-based women's, Black, Indigenous, and LGBT plus organizations to engage their deep knowledge of the relevant issues and their existing ties to communities that will enhance the effectiveness of any interventions that are developed. I make this recommendation with two cautions. First, if our efforts on behalf of BIPOC women and girls are to be culturally acceptable, then they will need to recognize women and girls as daughters, mothers, sisters, aunties, and community members whose ties to others are part of their mental health and well-being. Strategies that excise them from these relationships that are also connections to healing and health-promoting social and cultural supports will not be acceptable or effective. Second, we should know that community-based organizations often implement innovative programming by pursuing grant opportunities, but sustainable gains are undermined by time-limited funding that prevents the transition from pilot programs to equitable, accessible mental health care. The path to sustainable gains for the mental health of women and girls is sustained investment that integrates community-based organizations as enduring components of our mental health care systems and strategies. Thank you for this opportunity to share my insights and offer some potential strategies to this committee.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm now going to turn it over to Blue Guardian, and Emmanuel, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, my name is Emmanuel Kindle. I'm the founder and CEO of Blue Guardian, a mental health early warning system that uses AI to detect mental health issues in young people and connect families with important mental health resources. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Emmanuel Akindele. I am the founder and director of Blue Guardian.
Software informatique.
A software for mental health for young people. We use artificial intelligence in order to detect problems or mental health issues in young people. And we connect families with relevant resources for mental health.
Starts in high school, where I face mental health issues, specifically anxiety. In this, I remained silent about this issue I was facing and bottled it in without reaching out to anybody else. Unfortunately, I wasn't the only one to do this. I'm part of the first generation to grow up with ubiquitous internet connection. And it amplifies issues my classmates felt, like depression, body image issues, self-harm, ultimately suicide. I had left high school, and I told myself that this was not normal, and something needed to be done so that the next generation gets better. After researching potential solutions, I started Blue Guardian, a mental health software that uses AI to detect issues in young people. The way it works is kind of like autocorrect, but for mental health. A parent and a child gets together and downloads it on the kid's phone. And as that kid types, that text gets sent to an AI model. But instead of being trained to detect grammar, it's trained to detect mental health cues. We do this without storing any text data, maintaining the child's complete and total privacy. Our mission is to work with schools all over Canada to detect mental health issues and connect families with mental health resources. I sit here with great optimism that this committee is studying the mental health crisis facing young people, especially young girls. This is why I'm confident that with our individual convictions, the task of advancing our shared goals moves forward. Our commitment to ensuring that young people have greater accessibility to mental health resources regardless of socioeconomic circumstance, our commitment to break the stigma surrounding mental health, and promote a culture that allows young people to say it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to seek help. Thank you for the opportunity of sharing my story with you, and I'm happy to be able to speak with you on such an important topic. Merci pour l'opportunité.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my story with you. I will be glad to talk about you on this important issue.
Thank you so much, Manuel. I'm now going to turn it over to future Black female, and I'd like to welcome Dr. Tepo Shamganda. Sorry, I should always put on my glasses as well. What a Monday morning. I'm starting terrible. Anyway, Tepo, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you for this invite. Diversity in Canada's youth has increased from 13% in 1996 to 27% in 2016, with about 49,476 Black girls and young women aged 15 to 19. These available statistics do not highlight the unique challenges experienced by Black girls and women, but it is reasonable to conclude that this demographic will have a disproportionately larger number experiencing socioeconomic and health challenges, especially due to COVID-19. Among Black immigrant and refugee youth, girls and young women experience more health problems than their male counterparts. National figures indicate that females aged 12 to 19 experience a higher level of depression and anxiety than their male counterparts, which is 5% versus 12%. At Future Black Female, our strategies promote well-being by advocating for protective factors while reducing the risk factors. We mitigate the impact of the pandemic specifically, especially the threat of longer-term mental illnesses related to COVID trauma. Our clients engage with us because we offer prompt, safe, responsive, and effective programming and support. And we've realized a feminist approach is needed. Black girls and women are facing disproportionate mental health and well-being impacts as a result of pre-existing barriers and systemic inequities that have been highlighted or exacerbated by the pandemic. Our therapists have identified that these inequities often stem from various forms of discrimination and marginalization. Future Black Female uses an intersectional lens in our program design and evaluation. We consider the multiple layers to their identities, for example, gendered social norms and values and expectations, immigrant and foreign status, poverty, which unfortunately for Black women lingers much longer than their counterparts. As a demographic, the girls and women we serve are less likely to afford mental health care. When hospitalized due to anti-Black racism in the wider healthcare system, they are often disbelieved, dismissed, and sometimes even punished for not fulfilling the stereotypical expectations of providers. An intersectional perspective emphasizes the importance of looking at these forms of discrimination together while acknowledging the cumulative effects on the individuals. That's how we know, for many, there is no safe space to gather one's thoughts, let alone share them. A culturally relevant and responsive approach is also needed. Our clients have shared that the lack of cultural responsiveness from non-Black therapists, cultural mistrust, and potential negative views impacted their experience of therapeutic care. In a recent survey conducted by the Black Health Alliance, 35.4% of Black Canadians revealed that they experienced significant psychological distress during the pandemic, yet only 34.2% never looked for health services. In 2018, 60% of Black Canadians were more willing to use mental health services if the mental health professional was Black. Being culturally responsive is a mental health provider's ability to recognize and understand the role of culture, both the clients and the clinicians, and the ability to adapt the treatment to meet the client's needs within their cultural framework. This is why getting access to mental health services that are culturally relevant is important for Black girls and women. Increased awareness is needed. We speak often of a lack of awareness, but the lack is not in those who are unaware. It's in a system that applies a one-size-fits-all approach to mental health. Mental health strategies must account for the diversity within our communities and approach mental health in diverse ways so that it makes sense and indeed raises awareness. Investing in cross-cultural design for mental health promotion will contribute to destigmatizing mental health. Future Black Female is eradicating the stigma of mental health by offering services by diverse Black women who can relate to the client on an instinctive level. Stigma is perpetuated by a lack of inclusiveness. Stigma is maintained by a healthcare system that does not pay for psychotherapy. And mental health in Canada has become a luxury that is ultimately costing us more than we can afford in human suffering. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pictepo. That was excellent. I'm now going to move it to Kenny Knichuk Incorporated. And in Sydney, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sydney Levisar Puhatch. I'm speaking on behalf of Gani Ganichik this morning. I am very grateful to have this opportunity to share with you a bit of what the organization does and some recommendations that we have for the government today. So a little bit about myself first. I am an Anishinaabe woman, a member of Sandy Bay First Nation here on Treaty 1 territory. I'm also a sun dancer. I recently completed my 2nd year in the lodge, and I am the co-chair on the board of directors at Gani Ganichik. I'm also a student in my master's at clinical psychology at the University of Manitoba. So mental health is really something that I am fully immersed in at all times and am highly passionate about. To speak a bit about the organization, Gani Ganichik is an Indigenous-led nonprofit who offers programs and services that are culturally relevant for Indigenous women, youth, and families in our community. We offer services focused on training and employment, culture and ceremony connection, as well as health and healing. So a few of our programs, I'll just give you a bit of an overview, are really focused on restoring well-being in our community. So we have our Medicine Bear Counseling program, and there we work with families of missing and murdered Indigenous women. We provide elder services, therapy sessions, as well as connection to ceremony. Our Heart Medicine program is designated for women who are survivors of sexualized and domestic violence. They also receive elder services, counseling, and connection with ceremony. Velma's House is a 24/7 safe space for women in city center who are needing a reprieve from domestic violence situations and an opportunity to get off the streets of Winnipeg. We also have Minopimatsuin, which is a sexual health program. We offer STBBI testing and other sexual health related services, as we know that Indigenous women are safer and more comfortable being treated by other Indigenous women in the community, as often healthcare services have not adequately met the needs of our community. We also have the Butterfly Club, and this is a program for Indigenous youth and Two-Spirit youth who have the opportunity to engage in ceremony, and it's really aimed at a lot of prevention work. So we like to engage youth early to sort of mitigate the risk of harms that are quite prevalent on the streets in the city. So as I mentioned, we do both prevention and intervention work, and everything that we do, the way we see it, is that mental health is connected to every part of ourselves. So in order to understand mental health, we also have to understand physical and spiritual health, physical safety, and a big piece of that is our environments need to directly meet our needs in order for us to be well in any way. And in many ways, they do not currently. We really require adequate access to resources and social supports in order to achieve well-being. And another critical component of that is that we need to be in charge of our own well-being as Indigenous people, as Indigenous women. We know what we need to live a good life. And as far as self-determination goes, it is such a crucial component of living well, because I think we've seen a lot of issues that have arisen systemically when we are not in control of our own well-being and of our own lives. Ultimately, I would like to iterate that we are not broken as Indigenous people, as Indigenous women. The system is broken. This is an inequitable systems issue that requires adequate and sustainable funding for programming that is Indigenous-led. And we really just need to have the supports in order to carry out what we need to do for our communities, for programming, for access in remote communities to receive services that are needed, and to move forward and operate collectively as empowered nations. So I say miigwech for your time today, and I look forward to speaking further and answering any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to turn it over for the next 5 minutes, to Lydia from the Réseau Québécois d'Action pour la Santé des Femmes. You have 5 minutes, Lydia. You have the floor.
Thank you. Merci pour cette invitation.
Thank you for inviting me. At the Réseau Québécois, we have existed for over 30 years, and what I will share today is based on the reality in the field, because we have over 100 members and we have independent research on the health of women. I will talk about the importance of intersectionality and different needs. And I will share with you the reality of Quebec, and I will focus on what you can do for women. But I'll start with certain basic things.
Excuse me, Lydia. Lydia, we're just having a little bit of issues with the interpretation. Would you mind just moving your microphone up a little bit closer to your mouth, if you don't mind? I'm just going to look at her.
Is it better now?
It sure sounds better. That's wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Lydia.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
All right. I was going to say that one of the premises, I'm going to try to do it in English as much as I can. One of the premises when we provide services or we study women's health is the fact that health is a social, has a social basis. La santé est vraiment un rapport social.
Health is very important, and we know that between two neighborhoods in Montreal, there could be many differences between a rich neighborhood or a poor neighborhood. If we want to have an impact on health, we need to act on the determinants of health. Secondly, when we think about mental health, it cannot be separated from mental and spiritual health. Imagine a physical health issue that doesn't have an impact on mental health. That's not possible. There's research in neurology that shows this. So if you want to have an impact on mental health, you also need to act on things that have a physical or spiritual impact. I will be talking about anxiety specifically. As you know, the two main factors are violence and economic insecurity. We are very aware of the committee's work on violence, so I won't go into detail on that. But it is impossible to work on mental health without acting on these two models. with regards to Quebec, unfortunately, the health and social services systems have been decreasing. Access to services is very difficult. Some people wait years to have access to mental health services. Recently, a woman committed suicide even though she had asked for help because there was a lack of services. And there are hundreds of cases like these. The pandemic has increased these issues. Now, alcoholism, drug addiction, cyber violence, a hard time finding a work-life balance, anxiety, all of these things are a part of a lot of young women and girls' daily reality. We want to insist on a physical issue that has an impact on mental health. There are chemical substances that mimic hormones and estrogen and have a significant impact on young women, on puberty, ovarian cancer, the rhythms of menopause, and I could talk about this for hours. But we're currently examining the Environmental Act, and we ask you to have a gender-based analysis in that act because the impact on the environment also has an impact on women and their mental health. With regards to recommendations, we are asking you to act on 3 things. Firstly, to work on prevention. Eliminate violence at its source as much as possible. And also to ensure that nobody in Canada or Quebec has to deal with insecurity for guaranteed livable wage, for rules on telecommunications and cyber violence, and to offer programs in schools in order to detect issues as quickly as possible and to break the isolation of women.
Because you're over your 5 minutes. You had 3 recommendations.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry.
It's just that you had 3 recommendations, and I know that we want to hear
Yes.
them all. It's just that we
Okay.
Hopefully we'll be able to get to that in the round of questions, if you don't mind.
Yes, okay, no
so
problem.
I know we still want to hear your next 2 recommendations, but we are going to get into our line of questioning, if that's okay. Okay?
right, go ahead.
All right, wonderful. So now we're going to be doing the round of questioning. So in our first round, each will get 6 minutes. So I will be passing the floor over now to Michelle Frary for her 6 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses who've taken their time out this Monday. And I would be amiss if I didn't acknowledge that it is Mental Illness Awareness Week as we delve into this, and mental health continues to escalate at an exponential rate, impacting all of us. It doesn't seem to matter economically or where we come socioeconomically. This is an issue that impacts all of us. Ms. Todd, if I may start with you, I just want to thank you, obviously, from mom to mom. I can't imagine what you've dealt with, and to have the strength to channel Amanda's legacy into awareness. So I'd like to get into the nuts and bolts, if I can, of what we need to do moving forward from a federal government perspective that is going to ensure that this never happens again. And a lot of what you talked about was fear, and I couldn't help but notice that we also have Emmanuel here from Blue Guardian, who may be sitting on an answer for us moving forward with technology that could have maybe helped Amanda. The first thing I want to ask Ms. Todd is, what do you think was missing in the education piece that would have helped you as a parent recognize that this was going in such a dark, dangerous direction?
Thank you for the question. Oh, I'm echoing. Hang on. I'm not sure. 10 years ago, actually 12 years ago, back in 2009, when Amanda was initially, the victimization started by her online predator, we weren't very much aware of what was happening on the internet, both as parents, educators, law enforcement. We have learned so much in the last 12 years, and I have to say, maybe because of what happened to Amanda and how high profile her death was, and with the YouTube video that she posted, we keep learning and we keep asking questions, and it's those questions that will bring the results. Now, this isn't the first standing committee that I've sat on. I've sat on a few for Bill C-13, which is the cyberbullying crimes, keeping Canadians more protected online, one on gender-based violence, one on cyber violence, and now this one, mental health. And I'm going to focus more on the online abuses that affect our young people and Canadians in general. I know the focus is women and young girls, but this is about Canadians as a whole. Exploitation is happening to young girls, women, young men, and boys, unfortunately, causing death by suicides across our nation and globally. What we can do more of is, and as an educator, my role in my school district is actually I coordinate online safety education for my teachers, my students, and the parents in our community. That is, I think we need to look at the preventable measures, the things that we can do to prevent the possible mental health traumas that can occur because of online abusive behaviors. We have to look at what those are, what those can be. We have to teach our children how to be safer online. And like anything else, our kids are just rolling their eyeballs at us, right? Subsequently, we can't give up on talking to our students and our children. We have to focus on the adults in our country to get them better informed, better aware of the cyber violences and online victimizations and what happens on the internet, and what our children are seeing. We also have to make sure that our law enforcement are educated. I sort of feel that initially back in 2009, 2010, and 2011, and this is because I sat in Amanda's trial for 9 weeks. I was determined as her mom to be there to listen to what the jury was listening to. And one of the gaps that I found was some of the preventative things that law enforcement could provide in terms of taking a crime seriously, making sure that it's investigated, not victim shaming, and not making my daughter feel that she was responsible, and not making her parents feel like they were at fault. There's a huge piece in that education part and that training part that needs to go into our police services and our RCMP services in order to better handle reports and case files that come in. There also needs to be government funding for resources that is unilateral in our country. So school districts aren't made and provinces aren't made to try and find the pieces. If there was, a set curriculum somewhere that our teachers could pick up easily, because our educators have our children like 6 hours a day for 400 days in a school, no, not 400, 285 school days in a school year. They are the ones that can be the frontline teachers of our kids to make sure that they understand and know what to look for and what they're seeing. But also we have to educate the teachers so they're comfortable in being able to talk about it in their class. I've known
Mrs. Todd?
many educators. Yes.
Mrs. Todd, I'm sorry, we've gone quite a bit over. You have
Sorry.
so much to offer our committee, so I'm sorry for feeling very, very rude,
No
but
problem.
we will be sure to get back to you. Marc Sauret,
Okay.
you have the floor for 6.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to all of our witnesses who testified today. And thank you for your commitment to your communities and to Canadians, and especially to young women and girls and marginalized women and girls. Ms. Todd, I had 2 other opportunities to hear you as a witness, and I would like to thank you for your courage. I have 3 daughters myself, and your courage over the past 10, 12 years. Thank you so much, and thank you for all the solutions that you shared. And I have questions similar to my colleague, but you responded to many of the questions. So I would like to thank you for the education that you share, and thank you for all the work that you do. My first question will be to Dr. Williams and Dr. Tapo. Currently, we have roundtables and we negotiate bilateral agreements between the federal government and the provinces. In 2017, there was $5 billion or $600 million for funding, but I would like to ask those 2 witnesses, when we're talking about bilateral agreements, we've heard that there are needs that were not addressed in the past, and we're trying to look towards the future.
Recommendations that you would have to the committee for negotiating bilateral agreements with the provinces, because when we look at virtual care, eating disorder, we talked, previous witnesses talked about shortages in psychiatry and first level. So I just wanted to get a sense from both of you what specific recommendations you have for us to be ensuring that we have those best practices in place when negotiating with the provinces to look at delivering the next step of services. Dr. Williams, if you want to start.
Thank you for that question. Thank you for that question. My first thoughts are that I think that, as I said in my remarks, we want to take advantage of the wisdom that's available within communities, which means a local focus. And so I would wonder about methods to really fund people that are closer to the site in terms of their knowledge of the issues and the capacities in various communities. And I would emphasize again that sometimes that I think it's actually really important to be funding existing community-based organizations because they have the credibility in the community, and often they have the innovations. I mean, part of what we've heard in today's remarks is about innovations that have happened because somebody within the community, somebody with lived experience, took action. And I think that there are many community agencies that have stepped into the gap where the gap that exists because we don't have accessible mental health care and mental health promotion services, and that we want to invest in those community-based organizations to really get the best results. I can pass it to the other doctor now.
Thank you. I agree with Dr. Williams that I suppose we would be called a grassroots organization. Funding is very difficult to obtain. A lot of funding requires us to have our charitable status, for example, which can take a while. I've worked in community health, mental health specifically for quite a long time. And I know for marginalized and racialized communities, for them to see a psychiatrist, they have to be it has to be an advanced crisis, I will say. Normally what happens is they look for information within their neighborhoods, within their communities. They're looking for supports that are not quite as stigmatizing. And so when they do finally see a psychiatrist, it's at a point where things have just gone on for way too long. And so investing in grassroots organizations and supports will help mitigate some of those crises. The other thing is with the psychiatrists, and it is good, we do have a shortage, and it is good to increase funding in that area specifically. But most psychiatrists can't spend more than 15 minutes with a patient. And as a therapist myself, the complaints I often get is, he sat with me a few minutes and next thing he was giving me medication and I don't want to be on medication. So there's a disconnect in what is funded and how the people take up those services. A lot of people also don't understand the difference between a psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, a physician. So the system itself is quite confusing. And they don't know that to see a psychiatrist, they need a referral, which means they need to see their family doctor first. A lot of people don't have family doctors right now. It's difficult to even get a family doctor. And so there are a lot of challenges along the way within the system itself.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm now going to move it over to Adrian. Adrian, you have 5 or 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Madame.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you to the witnesses for being with us. We get shivers from hearing your presentations and reminds us of the importance of working on this issue. Ms. Todd, I'm a new mom and have been for about 8 months, and I can't imagine my life without my daughter. So I would like to extend my condolences to you. We can see that we're at the start of the Mental Health Awareness Week. It is a week to reflect and to work on the destigmatization of mental health, and it's something that was mentioned by many witnesses. But at our committee, we are focused on solutions. My first question is for Ms. Asayag. This morning, I heard on the radio that we can't offer more mental health services without more funding. And I also heard this morning that in Quebec there are projects that exist, but they're on standby because there's a lack of funding. And there are other countries, for example, Australia, that show that when you invest in prevention, you are able to decrease mental health issues. But how can we talk about all of this? Because we need to remember that health is of provincial jurisdiction, and Quebec has projects, but they don't have enough funding. So those projects are set aside. So can you talk about the importance of investing in our health system? Because as you said, the pandemic made the issues worse. And so it is important to talk about health transfers as well. Thank you for the question. Indeed, one of our recommendations is to double the health transfers. But it's not only a matter of money, it's a matter of systems. The system in Quebec is curative. Only 2% of the budget is spent on prevention, which is completely abnormal. We would have to do like the European Commission that has 34% of their budget for mental health and prevention. It's not only a matter of money, it is a matter of functionality. We cannot wait for a crisis. And to do that, we need to work in schools, as said Ms. Todd. We need to work in the environment because often people feel isolated and they would have people around them that could help. And coming back to the recommendation of having community networks, we work with hundreds of community networks and we know the innovation that is done on a daily basis to help people. But as you said, they are underfunded and there's not enough of them. And there are community resources, alternative resources in mental health that could help before a crisis. Apologies, go ahead. It's important, and I would like for us to come back to community organizations because they are part of prevention. And in Quebec, they are funded by the Ministry of Health, and they are asking for more funds. But it is important to talk about the fact that there are projects in Quebec and they want to have funding. So the first step would be to give the necessary resources, in this case, funding. But this matter of funding is essential. Yes, absolutely. And now we're talking about prevention, and perhaps we could come back to it in a second round, but what is interesting with your work and your organization, the Réseau québécois d'Action pour la Santé des Femmes, it's the fact that you focused on the burden, the mental load for women, and that it is heavier every day, and that women are feeling the accumulation of this load. And they can develop mental health issues. Can you tell us of the impact of this overload and how we have seen that the pandemic made it worse? Answer: the pandemic certainly made it worse. There was the issue with daycares and others. And whenever there are issues, it's women who have to take on the load, all of the invisible work. When I talked about collective factors in mental health, women are the ones who help. They focus on care. So they offer care to their families, to their children, to their friends. They have a network and they take on the mental health of their networks, but not of their own. They take on the load at home and the school. They take care of their parents. There's just too much for them to manage. And that creates a lot of anxiety.
Thank you so much. We're now going to turn over for the next 6 minutes to Leah Gazan. Leah, you have the floor for 6.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I first want to start by just offering my condolence to Carol Todd. And thank you so much for your courage sharing your daughter's story. It's truly touching and I think a real gift to the world so that we can learn, so that other young people don't have to go through the same hurt and parents the same trauma. My first question is for Sydney Lavaseur Pikach. Is it Pikach? Is that right? Piach? Puach? Okay, sorry. I think it's no secret. I've been a big advocate for Velma's House in Winnipeg Centre, and you made a point during your presentation about how important it is for Indigenous women, girls, and diverse gendered folks to be in charge of our own care. One of the reasons why I was really advocating strongly for Velma's House is the fact that it's a low-barrier safe space because, for example, we know there is a direct correlation between people who use substances often and mental health. Can you speak to the importance of offering a low-barrier care particularly for young people, that is readily available in communities 24/7. Why that's a life-saving measure.
Absolutely. I think that whatever we can do to reduce red tape when it comes to accessing, mental health related and overall well-being services and safety services specifically, we need to ensure to prioritize, because the last thing that people need to worry about is, how am I going to get this? When people need support, when support is urgent, it needs to be there for them. And that's something that Velma's House offers and that we want to ensure to have in a lot of our programming at Ganiganichik as well. And I think one of the ways to aid in that is to have funding that is available for multiple years with as little, reporting provisions and requirements as possible, because things come up in life. And I think reducing red tape is critical so that we can offer support to as many people as possible who are in crisis and in immediate need.
Thank you so much. My next question is for a future Black female. You spoke in your testimony about how there's significant struggles for Black women, girls to access mental health supports. And some of the things that you spoke about are systemic racism in care. You spoke about the importance of representation, that representation matters so that people can see themselves in that care, and the importance of culture. You also spoke about racism. I know in Manitoba, particularly with Indigenous peoples, we've had significant issues with racism in the healthcare system that has sometimes resulted in death, in fact. People literally dying in waiting rooms trying to get access, a minimization of healthcare struggles. Can you expand a little bit more about what you think needs to be done to make getting access or to improve access, to remove violence and systemic racism and stigma for systems that are servicing Black, Indigenous, and people of color?
I think one of the main things is, like I said before, it's the systems navigation. I think we need more representation across the healthcare system. I know a lot of universities are now implementing recruitment strategies that attract and retain more physician trainees from marginalized communities. But we need to see this across the board, so not just with physicians, but with other healthcare providers. The other thing, in 2016, there were about 6,000 registered psychotherapists in the province of Ontario, and that excluded Indigenous practitioners. And at the time, I was on the council for the College for Registered Psychotherapists of Ontario, and they made a decision to exclude the Indigenous practitioners because their system did not account for Indigenous practices in mental health care. And so for Indigenous practitioners, they were told, figure out your system, let us know how you want to register your practitioners. So a lot of systems, when they're put in place, are not accounting for diversity from the get-go. So
I just want to, just because I have limited time, do you think it's because when we're looking at health care, like mental health care, it's still implemented through a very colonial lens?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And does that impact funding?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you very much. My last question is for Emmanuel Akindele, is that right? Akindele? Akindele, sorry. I was listening to and I was like blown away. I know not a lot about technology, but like your brains, in terms of being able to create a system, especially for somebody that is kind of technologically not very efficient. But you were talking about AI as a way to measure like mental health. But my question is who gets to see this AI data and how is that data protected? For example, in Manitoba, child welfare files, people used to just be able to like just readily access them even when people were out of care. So how is this data protected?
Emmanuel, you have about 30 seconds to respond.
Sounds good. Well, I'll be kind of brief. The first part of it starts with being able to train the model. So we need to bring in engineers. We also have young people annotate data, meaning take strings of sentences. Example, I'm having a bad day. A young person can come in and annotate that data. We also can bring in psychologists to overall look at the data. The main thing in terms of in terms of the data storage is when you train the AI model very effectively to be able to detect signs of mental health, whether language is neutral, sad, happy, you don't need to store the data. So it's kind of like an autocorrect or like a Grammarly, in which they're not storing all your emails, they're not storing your messages, but essentially it's kind of filtering through the system and it's able to get a score. So on our end, what we have is a score.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks
Sorry,
so
I
much,
don't know if
Emmanuel.
that was time.
I'm sure we'll be getting back to more of that, so no stresses. Dominique, I'm now going to pass it to you for 5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you to all the witnesses for being with us today. I was thinking of my partner, and I was telling him 15 days ago that it's hard listening to the news because it can be very discouraging. We hear horror stories all the time. You raised it a little earlier today. Miss Champagne's story, who committed suicide from a 16th floor because she could not have access to the psychiatric services that she needed. All of the femicides that we hear about, especially in Quebec, and news coming from abroad. You just have to be very sturdy to listen to the news, and it can shake us in our everyday lives. Ms. Todd, thank you for your testimony. Many of us have children, and we were very touched by what you said today. Andréane said it. We're looking for solutions today. So we're trying to find solutions so that we can help people with mental health issues. It's nice to see that in different fields, for example, sports or culture, that people are openly and publicly talking about their anxiety and their mental health issues, that they're giving names to these things. And I think that there's a lot of positive things happening. So, Emmanuel, can you explain more? In the case of Ms. Todd's daughter, how could a service like yours prevent the situation, if possible? And also, a lot of us do not follow the evolution of technology, and it is changing rapidly. I don't know about my colleagues, but I have a hard time following. So can you please explain how your software could have helped Ms. Todd? Answer.
Is we want to get a parent and a child to actually have a conversation that mental health matters amongst that child. So at least having a first step in which the parent's able to download a piece of software on the child's phone and they have a conversation around this. So that's kind of the first step. Second step that we want to do is with our AI model, we're doing something called sentimental analysis. So this is under the branch of natural language processing, and then above that there's AI. With that, what we have the capacity to do is we're able to take, again, strings of code and strings of text, and we're able to classify it, whether it's happy, sad, what's the context behind that sentence. And we do that, sorry.
So I'm having a hard time understanding how it works. It's during a conversation. How does it work concretely?
It works is, say you're texting. We're able to take that sentence after you text it. It will go through our AI model, And on the back end, it will take that sentence and it will classify it, whether we see it as a positive sentence, meaning today I'm having a really good day, that will probably have a high score of positivity. If it's having today I'm having a very bad day, another example, it will say classify as a negative.
And it gives information to the parents on the child's state of being. Dr. Tapo, please.
Comment vous recevez une...
You are a therapist. How do you feel about such a technology? How would you qualify it? Is it promising? Could it yield good results? When you hear him talk, what do you think? Are you aware of this technology?
So I wasn't aware of it, but I've written his name down and I'm thinking I'll find him on LinkedIn. It's the most brilliant thing I've heard. I've worked a lot with children and youth in mental health, and parents are often distressed because they don't know until it's too late what's going on. And sometimes children hide these things because they don't want to disappoint their parents. They're afraid their parents will overreact, or sometimes the parents don't believe them. And so having this technology that the parent can care for their child's mental health without being in their child's face, I think is really, really groundbreaking. Well done, Emmanuel.
Dominique, we'll come back to you, but your 5 minutes is up, sorry. I'm now going to move it over for the next 5 minutes to Sonia Sidu. Sonia, floor for 5.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, all the witnesses being with us. Ms. Todd, thank you for your strength. Nice to see you again. And thank you the work you are doing for the coming generation. And what strategies, what should we do so the young kids cannot face what Amanda faced? We also heard the algorithm. You talked about the communities need to work together. And then what kind of the strategies should be in place so we all can work together so young youth cannot face that what Amanda faced?
That's a big question. and that's a question that's been floating around for a long time. I have to also say that this coming October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and that's the day that Amanda took her life, not realizing it was World Mental Health Day. And so awareness is really important. The strategies and tips, it's all for, in my opinion, it's all about the prevention, because when you talk about online harm and online abuses, those are triggers that lead to mental health distresses. And some of the mental health distresses, of course, can be organic within a person, or they can be developed, right? And developed with the ongoing trauma, with the post-traumatic stress, with the ongoing victimization, and without the supports needed, it doesn't go away. It just grows and grows and grows until it bursts. And unfortunately, we don't want things to burst. So preventable measures, education, resources, funding for adequate health care. We talk about psychiatrists, we talk about psychologists, we talk about counselors. No child or no person should have to, if they're going to a government provincially funded healthcare provider, like in BC, we have children's mental health, right? Working with youth up to the age of 24. No one should have to wait for a 6-month waiting list. And if there is a 6-month, 1-year waiting list, then the next step is private. Psychiatrists, you know what? My problem with psychiatrists is they want to give the medication, and the medication's not always needed. There are other ways to provide supported care, spiritual care, physical care to a young person. And then you go the counselor or the psychologist route, which of course is needs money. Even the best benefits, if parents have the best benefits in the world, it doesn't provide for ongoing care. And I've heard that from many, many parents who have contacted me, and something that I am dedicated to is supporting that with Amanda's Legacy. And then you see the improvements. So funding is really important. Provinces need to add psychotherapy, psychologists, and counseling to their medical plans so that it's accessible.
And thank you. How can parents best support their children? Dr. Williams, you can say that.
Thank you for that question. I appreciate the opportunity to say that as exciting, like I think the technology that Blue Guardian has is very exciting, but it's essentially an alert system, which we didn't have, and a window into young people's experience that we didn't have before that would be very exciting to have. But we still need parents, teachers, other community members that are prepared and ready to respond. So there is a part of this is about public education and mental health literacy and mental health promotion within communities that is tailored to specific communities. And also services that has to be backed up by services that are accessible and acceptable to these different groups. So I think I think the federal government maybe has the opportunity to be innovative in a way that provincial governments maybe can't be or haven't been, because they can be thinking outside the existing silos of community services, family services, health services to create something that could be different. I think there could be an exciting something that could think about this in terms of what do we have available to individuals, what do we have available to peers of these young women and girls, what do we have available to family members and trusted adults that are around these women and girls, and then what are the services that are available. And a few people have talked about psychiatrists and the limitations of the tools they use. We need to think more expansively about the type of service providers that are available in the system. And I return to my point that, not funding just a project here and a project there, but thinking about a healthcare system that includes healers, psychotherapists, other types of practitioners that might really help with mental health promotion.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. We're now going to go for 2.5 minutes, and we're going to turn the floor over to Adrienne. Adrienne, 2.5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I will continue my questions with Ms. Assayag. Dominique mentioned it. We're happy to see public figures talk more about their mental health. And we saw in Quebec, and I would like to share my condolences to Amaya Champagne, and you mentioned it, Ms. Assayag. It raises the debate on mental health care. But again, there are celebrities that talk about their mental health. Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles, and others. And they talk about and others talk about the importance of being a caregiver for someone with mental health issues. On your website, you talk about invisible work. And in invisible work, there is the matter of being a caregiver. That it is, again, women who take on 2/3 of the household chores and taking care of children and caregiving for parents, for example. So can you talk more about recognizing that invisible work, for example, a day to recognize that, or measures to recognize that work, because these people are offering direct care to their families, and they are often suffering from that mental load.
Off mute. Perfect.
Merci. Yeah. Okay. Merci pour la...
Thank you for the question. Indeed, the matter of being a caregiver is essential in women's lives. As mothers, we take care of our children, but we have a tendency to take care of people who need it. There are studies that show that there are caregivers who pass away before the person they are helping because they are overexerting themselves. Unfortunately, the health system does not consider that caregiver as somebody who is part of the file. There are a lot of suggestions to support a caregiver as well as the person receiving care. There should be as well official recognition. There is a law in Quebec on caregivers, but it has not been applied yet throughout the system. And there should be systems for relief. There are people who are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they are getting exhausted, and they don't realize the impact on their health. So relief services for caregivers and to have an analysis.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and we'll be able to get back around to you for sure. I'm now going to pass it over for the next 2.5 minutes to Leah Gazan. Leah?
Thank you so much. I have more questions for you, Emmanuel. I'm very interested in this. So a couple of things. So is this particular application just for the parent and child, or caregiver and child?
Yes, it's for the parent and the child. They would download the same app, and they would be able to see the same emotional insights.
Okay, and then one of the things that I know from text, I'm a mother. I have a 23-year-old son, and sometimes he texts me things, and I can't read his tone. So I'm like, are you okay?
Yeah.
So I can't do that as a human being. How does the application, how does it decipher tone? Like, are you okay? Are you not okay? Is it?
Yeah, so the way it works is you first and foremost need data annotators. So you need people who can actually physically, like manually, give context to sentences and train that AI model. So you would take example text. I gave the example prior, today I'm having a bad day. If you had a sentence like that, a person would need to give context. Ideally, you would want a young person who has more context, because kids have different language patterns and lingo. And from there, that's how you would be able to train a model to be able to detect tone.
And is there a pilot currently happening with this application, or is it?
Yeah, so we started a pilot with a few parents. I'm from London, Ontario, so we started a pilot with some parents in London. And our next step is to start a pilot with schools as well, so to see how it would work at an academic level.
Part of the, yeah, that's good to, so I was actually a teacher at one time in my life. I ended up teaching in the Faculty of Education. But I know that often with kids that are experiencing significant difficulties, often the parent needs to work with the school and sometimes, if necessary, outside agencies. Yeah. Has there been given any thought to try and get all the service providers working with the child kind of collaborating together, particularly around mental health? And is your application part of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something we'd like to do kind of like down the line. One thing I've noticed with talking with schools, if I can say this last part, is a lot of the services that they have available to the students, they kind of feel very overwhelmed. And it's beyond the capacity of the school. So that's another thing. So there's an issue beyond just even directing parents to services. I think there needs to be a lot more services, because one of the issues actually with some of the schools is we love the idea, but we're already so overwhelmed. So we're going to be directing a lot more people to an already overwhelmed system.
Thank you so much. I know we'll be coming back to you for sure. So anyway, I'm going to now pass it over. We're back to 6-minute rounds, and I'll pass it back to Michelle Ferry. Michelle, you've got 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Emmanuel, if I may call you Emmanuel. Is that okay if I call you that? You've got a lot of people in the room that probably your biggest hurdle is going to be figuring out how to explain this technology, ironically, right, to a demographic, especially parents, as they navigate this. I want to go to, again, it's Mental Illness Awareness Week, and I've already downloaded your app, sitting here. You write in your app under Blue Guardian, it is projected that by 2030, untreated mental health problems will be the leading cause of mortality and morbidity globally. I couldn't agree more, and I think we're just starting to see the impacts of the pandemic. As a mom, I think we're going to see this for years and years and years to come. you have choose proactive instead of reactive parenting. I guess the first thing I would ask, and I think it's been touched on, do you have any data as of yet of the success of this app? Do you call it an app, first of all? Okay.
So we're at still pretty early stages, so the sample size would be too small for me to share anything with you right now. The main thing is I have a lot of stories from parents who've been able to use it. One story, if I can share.
Yes, please.
There was a parent, because I went around my neighborhood during Mental Health Awareness Day, and I walked up to a parent, and he had a daughter who was 17, and she already had diagnosed mental health issues and prior mental health diagnoses. So he was in a position where he's like, how do I let my daughter go off to university knowing that she has a lot of issues, and he was feeling kind of distraught about it, and I presented kind of the solution and the idea, and we're still at a pretty early stage, so we're nowhere near in terms of the emotional insights in terms of what it can do, but it gave him a lot of, he said it removed a lot of stress off his shoulders, because ideally, if she goes off and he can kind of still remain there and be able to monitor, have that conversation if something goes bad, have that conversation, it removes a lot of stress off of him.
Well said, and I think, we've talked about this in this study before when we look at co-regulation. If the parent is not regulated, that goes down to the child, and vice versa, right? There's a saying my grandma always said, you're only as happy as your most unhappy child. And so that's really powerful. I think I'm curious how you're funded right now, the funding model that you have.
Yeah, so the way we've been funded is I was a student at Western, so I got a little bit of funding from Western. I've also done a lot of funding from myself, so I was able to kind of self-finance as well. Ideally, the model I'd like in terms of being able to fund this and kind of recruit a lot of engineers to work on the solution would be seeing if a school would be willing to kind of purchase it on behalf of their students, and from there make it accessible to the entire student body.
That's great. I think when we're looking at mental health, and to go back to Ms. Todd, I think when she's talking about prevention, I think your app, Blue Guardian, can be a really critical piece of that prevention, because when we have a language and we're able to identify a feeling and emotion, then we can move forward. Half the problem is that a parent isn't speaking the same language as the child, and so there's this big barrier, and as a result, you're not able to connect, basically. The other aspect would be resilience and grit. These are the key kind of components that we need to teach our children, because social media, none of this stuff is ever going to go away. So how do we instill sort of resilience and grit? So it'd be great to see a next level of Blue Guardian teach that this is how you're feeling. How do we now instill resilience and grit, and how to manage those feelings? And mental health first aid, I would also like on the record too, when we talk about Ms. Todd and prevention, I think it should be key for all of that. One final question, does it read? Some of the pushback may be from people who are not feeling trustworthy of apps and data collection, which I know Ms. Gazan touched on, but does it read your facial expressions, because we know that is one of the most powerful ways to gauge emotional response of happy, sad, etc.
So it doesn't read your face. We only use natural language processing. Okay. So it's based on the language that you're using, and what are you typing, what are you browsing, are you sending an email, and it tries to add context, take context from that text, and be able to kind of give it to a parent in a digestible format, whether happy, sad, neutral, and potentially maybe down the line some more specific.
Is there an interest in facial recognition at all?
I would say no, personally. Main reason is I wouldn't personally feel comfortable in terms of our data collection taking that kind of data. I feel a lot more comfortable with the text data, because it's a lot better to kind of break down.
Great answer.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. Or done?
Carol, I see you have your hand up. We only have about 10 seconds. Do you have about 10 seconds of comment, or go ahead?
Oh, probably. As an educator, and we talk about apps, they're great to use. Emmanuel's app is the first stage, but you also need the stage after it's been alerted and what happens. But my big concern is apps can be downloaded onto a child's phone, a young child's phone. What happens with that teenager who's 13 to 19 and doesn't want their parents on their phone? And so that kind of solution is not going to work. So then it's really important that we build in other solutions within education, social emotional wellness, that online digital wellness part.
Thanks so much, Carol. I'm just sitting here looking at the people that we have at our table. I think this group right here, we could get to work. So thank you, Carol, for adding that. I think it's all about this type of conversation. So thank you so much. I'm now going to pass it over to Anita. Oh, no, I'm not. Francesco, you're with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Francesco, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my colleague Anita Vanabel for the time. To the presenters today, I would like to start off. There were some earlier comments which I found very interesting in terms of government funding and government programs. It was a reference to the time-limited funding and then how pilot programs are translated to permanent programs. And there was just comments that I took some notes on. I believe it was stated, if I'm incorrect, please get me wrong, there was Dr. Williams, if I'm not correct, if I'm correct. And yes, and Dr. Williams on screen. If you can comment on that, if I have the wrong person, I apologize. Have Dr. Williams comment and then the second individual comment.
Absolutely, it was me.
Yes.
I take responsibility for those comments. Yes, it's that there's a lot of. So I want to recognize that the government has actually tried to address a lot of these issues. And what they do is they have these calls for funding, calls for proposals, and community agencies take those and they develop programs. And sometimes they're moving from grant opportunity to grant opportunity to grant opportunity. And certainly in my discussions with community agencies, one of the things we talk about is that Black organizations, Indigenous organizations, organizations focused on people of color are in this space where they're moving from project and proposal to project and proposal while the system is being built somewhere over there, right? And so how do we make these innovative solutions, these interventions that are working within communities, a sustained part of our mental health care system? And I wonder is it about redistributing resources, defunding in some places and moving that into places where they're actually reaching the communities we're trying to reach, and thinking from through the lens of equity. Also, this is about reaching out to the communities that need it the most. So we need to think differently about our resources. Is it redistribution of stuff from health? Is it redistribution of resources that are going to public health, since it's a population health issue and also a health promotion issue? So those are my comments. I think there's a lot of innovation and exciting work happening within community-based organizations. The other thing too is that we could be thinking about making sustainable changes in the mental health care system by building a person force that actually can deliver these mental health care services from within the communities themselves. So that requires, I guess, scholarships to get people skilled appropriately, but also recognition of other types of healthcare provision that are relevant to the mental health of young women and girls.
Thank you, Doctor, for that. My next question to I don't want to mispronounce your last name, the young individual, Miss Olagunju. Just wanted to obviously say thank you for your participation in Future Black Female and all you do there. Just a very sort of direct kind of question. What would someone, in the youth community, a leader within the community, what would you like to see?
Thank you very much for that question. My first thing, I'm an immigrant from Nigeria. So one thing that I really, really want to see is prioritizing immigrants' mental health, because just being an immigrant, you go through like a lot, and both from like the process of immigrating and the trauma that you faced back home. So I think that's something that should be looked at. And another thing that I feel like is something that should be looked at is that whenever, like, because we were mentioning something about how, like, the language barrier between parents and their kids. But I think that something parents should learn to start doing is, from the first instance that the child comes and talks about their issue, they should take it with so much, I forget the word, interest or something. So that's something that I feel like something that should be taught, that if I come, obviously I'm not lying, I have a reason. So please, like, pay attention to what I'm saying. And this also goes to like our like teachers or community, anyone in the community. If I come up to you, I'd really appreciate if you take whatever I'm saying as important. So that's something that I feel like should be.
I've a few seconds left. Okay. I want to Sydney. I know you're virtual, and I've read some of the activities that you're involved in, initiatives, and I just kudos to you and the entire team there. Can you provide some further comment or color with regards to these activities and how they're making a difference in the lives of the people participating in?
Absolutely. So we really serve as many people as we can. We are open to the public, to not only folks in Winnipeg, but as well from reserves around Manitoba who come into the city. And we do focus a lot on protecting youth. That's one of the big things that we are really interested in, where there are dangers, especially with Indigenous youth who are so vulnerable coming into the city to predators, to gang involvement, to sexual exploitation. We try to welcome them with open arms at their first meeting, whether they're coming in for school or for other programming, and ensure that they have a safe space to live and learn and develop this network of care and of safety. So that is really critical. That's on our prevention side. And then as far as intervention, we really try to adapt to where the needs are in the community, whether that is in solidifying a safe space for women or addressing the murder crisis in Winnipeg of Indigenous women and providing support for families who are experiencing that, addressing, women who experience sexualized violence, domestic violence, and then providing a ceremony space in an urban setting for Indigenous folks to come together and get back to the way that we heal traditionally as Indigenous people, collectively and in this.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sydney. I know there's so much to add, so I'm sorry to all of the questioners today because I'm really messing around with your time. So thank you so much. Awesome, Sydney. Passing it over 6 minutes to Adrienne.
Merci. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Assayag, just to come back to what we were saying on caregivers, and there's Jean-Philippe Dion from my riding, who is a spokesperson for Avant Craqué, and he talked a lot about his work as a caregiver for his mother who had mental health issues. But coming back now, you opened the door to talk about recognizing invisible work. Unfortunately, in 2010, a colleague, Nicole Demers, at the Bloc, had a bill to recognize invisible work. Unfortunately, nothing has moved forward there since 2010. So hopefully, as elected officials, we'll be able to examine the possibility of recognizing people who do invisible work. The now coming to GBA Plus and how it needs to be done more in Ottawa, and the importance that it could have on mental health, because it is something that you mentioned. So if you have anything to add on the importance of GBA+. Thank you for the question. Yes, GBA+ is essential because it allows you to put on the lens and see the impact of programs on men, women, youth, seniors. And if we don't have that lens on, we can't see. And even if we have goodwill and good programs, we get the impression that we're doing a good job, but that might not be the case. And I think that the other witnesses mentioned it as well. It is a tool. There are others, but it is an essential tool that allows us to not exacerbate inequalities. The invisible work of women is a long fight. We allowed women to study and to work, but we haven't adapted to women's realities. And women wear more hats than men. Of course, there are men who are caregivers, but the majority are women. And all of those hats, to cook, to educate, to be a mother, to be a daughter, to take care of others, there are too many hats at the end of the day. And so we turn to strategies to adapt, for example, alcohol, drugs, medication, or even worse, suicide. And we need to make those hats visible because we consider them natural, but they're not really natural. It's the social division of tasks. If we don't make these hats visible, we won't recognize the weight that these women carry and all the other pressures that they face. Hypersexualization, for example. They face so much pressure. And they suffer. These young women and these young girls suffer. And we won't see it until we have a GBA plus analysis. We won't be able to wear that lens. You're completely right, and thank you very much for those comments, and you stated it well. We talk about caregivers, and congratulations for your work and working on recognizing invisible work. Thank you, Ms. Asayag, for your testimony today. Hopefully, we'll be able to come back to this, but I would like to end this turn with Ms. Todd. You talked about something that is important to me, cyberbullying, and the importance that we find a bill to counter this because online hate has an impact on the mental health of young girls. And with social media, it has made the matter worse. So the importance of having a bill on cyberbullying and online hate, what does it represent to you?
Well, I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I was just thinking about it. Back in 2014 and 2015, the Conservatives brought up Bill C-13, and you can Google it online, and it was protecting Canadians online. And within that bill, they call it a cyberbullying bill. But to me, it's not about cyberbullying. It's on online victimization because it is about the sharing sexual images of someone without consent, and it takes away the child pornography part because the age of the image, the age of the person on the image can be all the way to adulthood, and it's in the criminal code, and it is you can get a jail sentence for up to 5 years. It's been more than 5 years since that bill has been passed in 2015, and I believe it needs to be revisited, and it's on my to-do list with the MP in my community. Because it's labeled a cyberbullying bill, I believe that you have to really define what cyberbullying is and define what online victimization is. Sharing intimate images is exploitation. Cyberbullying is hateful speech. We have to, and that's under harassment. So maybe we need to look at the criminal harassment because so many people who are calling themselves being cyberbullied are really being harassed, and that's criminally chargeable. However, you can't get a police officer to file to investigate unless that harassment has a death threat on it. So
Perfect.
we need to really define and look at what we have, what it really means, and make it more punishable, or we need to do something.
There needs to be teeth, I think, is where you're going with this.
I beg the government to look upon that.
Thanks so much, Ms. Todd. I'm now going to pass it over for 6 minutes to Leah Gazan. Leah?
Thank you so much. My next question is for Dr. Williams. I just want to say I really liked what you said when you said it's not individuals at risk, but systems that are at risk at not meeting the needs of individuals. I used to say that in my course, like, let's stop talking about at-risk youth. Let's talk about systems that are at risk of not meeting the needs of youth, because I think the onus is often placed on individuals with systems that are not adequately responding to needs. So I just really appreciated that. I was like, yes, I love that so much. You spoke about problems with mental health care, particularly because we often address mental health using a homogeneous lens, like we're all the same. And we know that's not true, particularly for individuals coming from BIPOC communities. I know it was mentioned today about the murder crisis of Indigenous women and girls, for example, in the city of Winnipeg, the city where I'm from, that you constantly are even walking around, your mental health is impacted because you never kind of feel safe because you're a target. There's a target on your back. Those things are often not discussed when we're talking about mental health, creating, proper mental health supports. And we know the experiences are different for non-racialized individuals, to us LGBTQIA plus individuals. Can you expand on some more unique supports? You talked about the importance of culture, like, socially relevant, but unique mental health care models that respond to intersecting identities better than what's currently available in the mental health care system.
Sure. Thank you for the question. I think of it in two directions. One direction is that if we think about where people seek help when they are dealing with emotional health or mental health problems, that we want to be thinking about how that care is tailored to the needs of specific populations. So women, I think I said it at the end of my comments, that we need woman-centered spaces, girl-centered spaces, but we need spaces that are also BIPOC-centered spaces, so that a Black woman has the opportunity to be in a service where she knows that people understand the issues of Black women and girls, and that she's going to meet practitioners that represent that population or have deep knowledge of that population. The other half of that is the health promotion component. So in terms of health promotion, I go back to what you just said. There are populations that are dealing with collective trauma and stress because of the world is not safe for certain populations, certain groups of women and girls. So how are we, we need to think about health promotion that deals with that kind of collective trauma and stress, and also the cumulative trauma and stress. Because if you look at the research, you see that women of color, sexual minority women, gender minority women, they have histories of lifetimes of exposure to violence and trauma. And part of what is difficult in our system is that it's not ready for them when they are ready and able to actually deal with that work, and in terms deal with those traumas. And in terms of best practices for treating traumas, we know you need regular supports, you need community supports, you need connection, this kind of thing. We don't have a system that's built to deal with that. So I return to, we have a system that has a one-size-fit-all approach that I'm frankly not even sure it fits anyone anymore. But certainly for Black and Indigenous and people of color, women and girls, it's not a good fit.
Thank you so much for that. My next question is for Madame Olugundu. Olugundu. Oh.
There's no D.
There's no D. Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Yes, sir. So my question is for you. You spoke about your experience in Winnipeg Centre. 70% of refugees actually move into my riding in the province of Manitoba. And one of the things that I've been fighting for is programs for youth, for a couple of reasons. One, a significant number of young people moving into my community deal with Islamophobia on a regular. It's growing. And it impacts people. And what we're seeing in my riding is, as a result of a failure to provide support for youth, more youth are joining gangs. So there was a model by a guy named Martin Brokenleg, a Dr. Brokenleg, and he talked about the circle of courage, and he said that, kids need a sense of mastery, generosity, independence, and belonging, and when you don't have that, they'll find other ways to fill those needs. Why is it critically important to have readily available supports, particularly for newcomer youth that are coming from diverse experiences, sometimes with trauma, significant trauma, especially leaving situations of war? Why is it important?
Thank you very much. Also, just a fun fact, I used to live in Winnipeg, and I was a refugee in Winnipeg, and it was hard, very hard, because they have this thing that refugees aren't people. So I was very isolated. But to answer your question, I think it's very, very important for youths to have the environment so that they don't turn to those other vices just so that, starting again. I think that refugees and immigrants and Indigenous people need the space to speak to someone, to talk to someone, just so that that doesn't happen, because the trauma and the problems that we faced, if we're unable to talk to someone about it, it just eats us inside. And the only way to pass out the thing that's eating us out is either to be on our own or join the gangs to find us our safe space.
Thank you so much. We are down to our last 6 minutes in this committee with 4 things of questions. So we're going to go 2 minutes, 2 minutes to Jenna, 1 minute, 1 minute. So I'm going to start off with Dominique. You have 2 minutes, and I'm going to probably keep it pretty tight so that we can end. Okay, Dominique, 2 minutes.
Ça, c'est difficile.
That's difficult. So I'll do things differently. Earlier, I was saying that we are here to find solutions and paths. Some of you shared ideas, and it'll be frustrating. In 2 minutes, I'll only be able to address one person, so we won't get to hear all of your proposals. But what I invite you to do is to reflect on all of your organizations and think about best practices, as said Dr. Williams. So best practices that you develop in your organizations or that you've witnessed. And it would be good, I think, Madam Chair, if we could receive them at the committee, and it would certainly help us reflect on this important issue that is mental health of women and girls. I think it would be very useful for us to have that, and I would like to conclude by thanking you for your testimonies. I greatly appreciated everything that you've said, and hopefully we can be more attentive to mental health issues, because so many people have these issues now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Jenna, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, also impossible, but thank you, Chair. I'm going to thank you to all of the witnesses, first of all, who've joined us. It's been really incredible and useful to hear your insights and suggestions today. I'm going to turn it to Dr. Tapo. It's great to see you once again. A few comments that you made I wanted to dig on. One was how confusing the system is. One was around, psychotherapy, counseling not being currently covered within our country, and the other piece around the one-size-fits-all approach for mental health doesn't work, and we need a cross-cultural design. I'm really just going to open it up in the remaining minute that we have for your comments to expand on any of those items.
Working on at Future Black Female is a national mental health campaign for Black girls. We are going to roll out a national survey because there is no information on the health experiences, the mental health experiences of Black girls. We can only surmise from other sources of data. So we're rolling that out, and we're looking for funding for mental health promotion, specifically for Black girls and women. PMS, for example, Black girls and women are more likely to be diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, which means they're more likely to have more difficult periods and suffer from PMS. And this is something that is not talked about at all. It is stigmatized. It is even made fun of, right? We all make these jokes about, oh, she's PMSing and all of that, but it's a significant mental health issue within that community. And so these are the kinds of approaches we need. We need to understand the mental health struggles of different communities, where they're coming from, even if it is from a physical health, because polycystic ovarian syndrome is something your physician diagnoses and not necessarily your psychiatrist.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And sorry, Jenna, because I know this conversation can continue on. It's been excellent. I'm now going to pass it over to Andriane. You have 1 minute, Andriane.
Okay, alors merci encore. Thank you again to the witnesses. I'll be quick. Miss Bajingdaga, why is it so important to have a lens on the mental health of women and girls in this study?
I think the lens of the women and girls is important because more and more as a society, we are putting more demands and expectations. Like we've all been talking about social media. And if you look at the representation of girls and women on social media, they're impossible. And so their mental health is suffering because society is changing. And even though we're working hard for equality and equity, gender perspectives, we need to, as we're discovering more information, we need to be responsive to that information. It's not enough to just celebrate women. Let's also protect them and provide for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Leah, last minute. Go for it.
Just wanted to follow up with Madam Alaganju. You said, we were invisible, we didn't matter. One of the things I've been fighting for in Winnipeg Centre is a place called Bilal Centre. It's particularly centered towards assisting Muslim youth. They put in applications, keep getting refused, even though we know things are getting dire. Why are these organizations like Bilal critical life-saving organizations?
I feel like first off, I really need you to reconstruct the question because I kind of got lost.
Okay, why are organizations like Bilal that provide services for youth, Muslim youth, we talked about racism, life-saving organizations, why are they critical?
I feel like they're very important because as the minorities, we need to have a representative front so that our voices can be heard. So that's why I feel like that organization is very, very important for the young Black Muslims.
Awesome.
Young Muslims in Winnipeg.
Thank you so much. I would really like to thank all of the witnesses today. Today has been an excellent sit down to get a lot of this information. I know for those people who have been in the last round of questioning, I'm very sorry for removing your time. If you want to, I just find some of them very challenging because I'm sorry, but I will never cut off Mrs. Todd. She has too much to offer. So I think that's the thing. So I hope everybody recognizes my flexibility because we have such incredible witnesses. So I do apologize. But we will be meeting once again on Thursday at 3:30. I remind all of our witnesses, if you have additional information or briefs that you would like to send in, please send them to our clerk. Those are due by November 1st or October 31st. October 31st. Anyway, thank you so much. Today's meeting is adjourned.